In Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3, there is a desolate land covered in ravenous shadows. A curse rapidly drains living creatures of their life force. Torches and other forms of light can help keep them at bay, but not always.
I've lived in darkness for centuries, but never found any like this. Unsettling.
It's the only way to Moonrise Towers. We have to push through.
In the darkest areas, these sources of light will be snuffed out. Light also won't protect travelers against the shadow-cursed undead here.
Stay together! Keep to the light!
Those who die are forced to remain in the darkness even after death and to serve it.
Jonas?
There you are. Come. Join me.
Jonas.
These undead wait in the darkness to ambush the living. If they are put down yet again, then shadow vestiges of their souls will remain trapped here. The player can learn about who these souls once were.
In her former life, this girl played in the nearby woods. She was always the best at climbing trees. You sense a young woman gazing at Moonrise Towers in awe. Perhaps one day she will get to gaze out from atop it, she hopes. You see a man stalking slowly through the woods, bow half drawn. If he bags a deer, the whole family will be kept fed all winter. You see an older woman on her knees scrubbing the floor of an inn. The patrons made a mess of things again the night before.
Carry me.
The image of an orange-haired cat asleep before a fireplace comes to you. What came of it? He had dreams of boarding a ship in Baldur's Gate and seeing the world. But then the darkness came.
But they cannot leave to face a normal afterlife. Only one small refuge exists here. A glowing shield rises over a patch of land. Harpers are attempting to keep it safe.
You there! Step forward and keep your hands off your weapons.
Easy! She's with me.
And to prevent any evil forces from sneaking in, especially the Mind Flayer-infected cultists of the Absolute.
This is why we're here, you see. 'Tis a curious creature that hides all manner of secrets. But if there's one thing that we know, it's that it knows its own kind. You should never have come here, true soul.
Several surviving travelers, who foolishly ignored warnings to avoid the area, are also sheltering here, if the player saved them in Act 1. On the second floor of the Last Light Inn, the player can meet the area's source of protection. A Selûnite cleric is maintaining the shield through a religious ritual on her bedroom's balcony. She will also offer the party a Selûnite blessing, which will help to partially protect them from the shadow curse.
Perfect. It'll make you immune to the lesser effects of the Shadow Curse, which will get you closer to the towers. But there are places it won't help. Places where the curse is darker, stronger.
Shortly after meeting her, a servant of the Absolute cult breaks his cover if he hasn't done so already. He'll reveal his intent to kidnap Isabel.
True soul, my instructions are clear. Take the girl to Ketheric, alive.
A haunting face swims into your mind's eye, its instructions vivid in your mind. Nothing is more important than bringing the girl alive.
Time to go, Isabel.
Why Isabel's survival is important to Ketheric is obvious. Isabel feigns ignorance.
Why does a man like him do anything? Power, spite, some kind of twisted personal morality. I can understand why he'd want me dead. Without me keeping the curse at bay, everyone in this inn, everyone intent on killing him, is dead too. As for why he'd want to take me alive, I don't know. And I don't want to find out. Now that we have you, I hope I won't have to.
But the player believing she doesn't know why is a forced story beat. Isabel laments the situation aloud, after all, as she stares at a bust of Ketheric.
A bust of Ketheric Thorm as he once was, a devotee of Selûne.
She wonders why Ketheric changed and pities him.
When did you turn? Why? What happened to you? A tragedy? Worse than that. A crime. What other sins have you been cooking up? I pity you. Truly.
Her diary, if read, will reveal more, that she was brought back from the dead. Eventually, an empty crypt for an Isabel Thorm can be found in Ketheric Thorm's family mausoleum.
So, this is where Isabel was resting, before Daddy Ketheric brought her back.
Jaheira will also confirm that Ketheric is Isabel's father.
Do you? Well, let us not leave you in suspense then. You are right. She is. Something malign? Huh. Or some blessing of Selûne, perhaps. I do not know what restored Isabel's life to her, but I can see what she is doing with it. If she wished to see us drowned in darkness, Isabel needn't have lifted a finger. Instead, she holds out her hand. I choose to take it. I choose to trust. And not just because I have no other choice.
Unfortunately, dialogue with Isabel is awkwardly limited.
What's on your mind?
Her breath catches. You notice a barely perceptible shudder run through her body.
An unfortunate coincidence. I hope never to meet the wicked man who hemorrhaged shadows over this peaceful village. I could say the same. But perhaps we should save the trivia till we're on the other side of this thing. Promise not to die, and we'll celebrate with our life stories.
Even when the act is concluded later on, she still doesn't have much to say. Further events and details in the setting do reveal more over time, though. Isabel had once lived a happy life with her parents, Ketheric and Melodia, in Moonrise Towers.
He had everything. A wonderful wife, a brilliant daughter. They lived not far from here. His wife died too young. Grief tore through their home like a thief, snatching away the scent of her hair, the rustle of her skirts. But the man did not break. He could not break. His daughter needed him whole, after all. She grew up, grew strong, challenged him, filled his heart with such joy it supplanted all sorrow.
Then, one day, an Aasimar named Aelin came to their small town.
When an emissary of Selûne came to our little town, we were elated. Dame Aelin, daughter of the Moon Maiden herself. Tell me, do you believe in love at first sight? You sound like my father. But it was more than that. This was no mere attraction. It was love. Lucky for me, she felt the same way. But my father was skeptical. Aelin is immortal, after all. I understand it's strange. There's an imbalance between us, certainly. But I suppose loving Aelin felt the same as loving myself. It was natural. Then... and this is where I still need answers. I died. I'm not sure how or why, but all was black.
When she was killed, the man, he tried to remain whole. But it wasn't possible. Do you understand?
A century of it by now. I loved her from the moment I beheld her sweet face. Her great, wise eyes. Her father Ketheric never did trust me. He did not fancy an immortal for his daughter's paramour. When she died, curse the day, the hour, we each of us mourned bitterly. But Ketheric's pain could be touched by no aid, no boundary. He turned to wretched Shah, the Lady of Loss, for relief. And she whispered into his ear, poisoning his mind. He and his loathsome advisor, Balthazar, lured me into the Shadowfell, claimed they'd found someone in need of my aid. There, they trapped me in their infernal cage. I was killed, murdered, made dead over and over and over by justiciars of every make and kind. I was reborn, for it is my nature. And Ketheric fed upon my immortality all the while. But lo, the brute is dead, and we live!
Her relationship with the demigod was intense and instant. In a setting where enthrallment, charm spells, and other magical shenanigans exist, it seems perfectly sane to wonder if an intense, instant devotion is natural. Their imbalanced power dynamic and immediate, intense connection were odd. Aylin's antiquated manner of speech also indicates that she may be far older than even Ketheric himself, too.
She has. Time means something different to Aylin than you or I. She once went for a walk and didn't come back for a month. Couldn't understand why I was upset either. My poor darling. She's singular among us all.
So it's unsurprising that Ketheric had some concerns about both his daughter's happiness and well-being. Yet, despite his reservations, Ketheric clearly didn't stand in their way initially. Based on their words and his own, he sounds as if he was simply a concerned but reasonable parent, and that he felt protective of Isabel, especially since he barely hung on after Melodia's premature death, makes sense. It seems likely that he would eventually feel at peace with his daughter's new union if it made her happy and nothing odd was going on. Unfortunately, this situation isn't developed further. It seems that their relationship is meant to be taken at face value, that it was love at first sight, and Ketheric doesn't have a chance to come to terms with it. This is because the next point on their timeline is rushed toward. Abruptly after falling for Aylin, Isabel died. In this setting, souls normally have predictable afterlives. What she described is not the normal afterlife that a devout Selûnite cleric ought to have, let alone the afterlife that a favored individual paired with the goddess Selûne's own daughter ought to have. Her resurrection was also clearly abnormal. Resurrection can be a tiring process, but it shouldn't cause an inner feeling of foulness or an odd cough.
I am also granted the power to provide holy resurrection through sales of revivification scrolls.
Next I knew, I was being jolted awake. I smelled musty air, I saw shadows. And then my father's face. So changed. So hideously warped. He resurrected me with magic so foul, I nearly retch just thinking of it.
As the game continues onward, more about her death and resurrection can be learned. In Moonrise Towers, if the player has Speak with Animals on, then it's possible to speak to Squire, the resurrected Thorm family dog.
Something's on my mind. Stand, soldier. These are the General's private quarters. Wait. Something in your scent is familiar. Do you take me for a teething pup? Get that out of my face. Though whichever whelp owns that thing smells happy, safe. I've not scented such a thing since I was flesh. Since my master brought me back, this place smells wrong. His family is gone. replaced by bootlickers and beasts. You are neither. So tell me true. What is your purpose here? I protect my master. What becomes of his master, I care not. Pass, then, but I will be watching. Not your scent. Selûnite magic on your skin. The general once smelled that way, when his daughter still lived. I died the same night she did, my master says, trying to protect her. I do not remember, but he brought me back. I will not fail him again.
If reminded of this smell and treated kindly, then she won't want to fight the party by Ketheric's side later on. Instead, she sadly retreats to Isabel's room to perish alone, in a place where she feels at peace.
It fills this place. It fills my head with things I miss. I cannot remember them, but I do miss them. I know the battle is outside, but there's peace here. And I'm tired of fighting.
Unfortunately, how the pair were killed is never explained well, but given context clues, it seems likely that the dark goddess Shar was involved. Why Shar would have had an interest in killing Isabel is obvious in context. Selûne's daughter entered a loving relationship with Ketheric's daughter. That put a huge target onto the Thorm family because the Thorms could then be used to target Shar's niece, Aelin. Shar is Selûne's sister. While Selûne values love and light, Shar values isolation, loss, and darkness.
There was no pain before my sister set the sun aflame. Now you exist to suffer, until you find your way back to my embrace.
Shar is also notoriously petty and consistently jealous of her sister. Whatever Selûne lays claim to, Shar wants to take away. They are also evenly matched goddesses.
I was able to retrieve it before it sank too far into Shar's umbral domain. Shar is quick to discard whatever she has no use for. I think you know that well enough, but I felt it call to me as I took flight. Whatever Shar calls her own, Selûne has equal claim to. They are one and the same. Their power is matched and mirrored.
This being the case, Selûne's own daughter would be a major prize for Shar, and as a result of Shar's machinations against the Thorm family, she does indeed get a hold of Aelin. That this is what eventually happens underlines that it likely was a calculated plan of Shar's all along. There is also further in-game evidence that Isabel's soul likely went into Shar's realm after her death. If the player takes the companion Shadowheart down a dark route, then Shar will state that she's taking Shadowheart's parents into her realm, into an afterlife in which they will only know what Isabel knew, endless darkness. Since Isabel actively remembered only darkness, it seems clear that she was likely in the same afterlife. Shar is also known to make her victims forget about what happens to them. Evidence for this can be found in several places.
They made you forget.
I chose to do that. For the mission to protect Shar's
secrets. Yes, yes, that is an old song, girl.
This forgetfulness also fits with both Isabel and Squire's lack of memory of the night they died. I also enjoyed a subtle implication as I played, because I thought that it was well crafted. It seems as if Ketheric was also made to forget things by Shar. After Isabel died, Ketheric abandoned his Selûnite faith and became a Sharan. He says that he was a perfect victim for Shar, perfect prey due to his grief. But this isn't entirely true. A perfect victim grieving a death doesn't generally, knowingly, run into the arms of their loved one's likely killer for comfort. Given his long track record as a Selûnite and knowledge of how the Divine Sisters' rivalry worked, he ought to suspect Shar of being the cause behind his misery. However, this is where context clues reveal an intriguing likelihood. Much like how others forgot their true interactions with Shar, it's likely that Ketheric has too.
A huge polished disc looms before you. A mirror. One used by the Sharans to plunder memories from the minds of others.
This feels familiar to me somehow. I'm sure I've stood before this mirror before. Many times, perhaps.
Huge polished disc looms before you. A mirror. One that was used to wrest your memories from you. With so much of your mind already surrendered to the mirror, you have nothing to offer. A sorry outcome. The mirror's emptiness seems to draw you into a stupefying embrace. Your thoughts, feelings, memories, they grow slow and drowsy, drifting away from each other. You must surrender some part of yourself. But what? The deception fails. You feel that something true to you is wrested from you as punishment, with nothing given in return. The dark mirror seems to turn dormant, its hunger sated.
He also shows signs of memory manipulation, not just forgetting, which is Shar's MO.
He raised me to serve Selûne as my mother, rest her soul, had wished.
She was always stubborn. She clung to Selûne even after her mother's death.
It's religious knowledge that those who interact with Shar normally come away without a perfect recollection of their time near her. Additionally, with the way Baldur's Gate 3 is written, it's not only quite possible that Ketheric is mirroring Shadowheart, but probable. In Baldur's Gate 3, tales often echo each other. Characters often have stories that mirror others' stories. Astarion mirrors Cazador in his predicament. Orpheus mirrors Aelin. The list goes on. Ketheric has similar parallels with Shadowheart. In Shadowheart's arc, she also believes that she chose to worship Shar. If the player completes her companion quest, then it's revealed that she was a brainwashed victim of Shar and not a willing follower. Shar had manipulated a child and kept the child's parents hostage. That Shar would flip this slightly to manipulate a parent whose child is held hostage fits perfectly. Isabel being held in darkness in her afterlife, when that's also what Shar wants for Shadowheart's parents, is another parallel. How Shar killed Isabel and Squire that tragic night isn't made absolutely clear. Still, however it happened, what happened after Isabel's death is clear. Ketheric oversaw Shar's forces.
Dark justiciars, who fell long ago in service of Shar and Ketheric Thorm. Fallen druids of the Emerald Enclave. They died trying to stop Ketheric Thorm long ago.
He committed many evil acts in his new goddess's name. At some point later on, he was finally killed after an infernal intervention. A mason in his formerly Selûnite town just couldn't stand the horrors being committed around him.
He marshaled a great army to ruin the world and bring all into shadow. I could not let it happen. I sought out the devil, Raphael, and signed an infernal pact with him. He promised to destroy my master's army, and I promised him my soul in return. The devil was true to his word. Fiends slaughtered my master's forces, but he endured somehow and blighted the land. You know my work. Oh, I am glad it endures. Perhaps you also have the misfortune of knowing my master, General Ketheric Thorm.
A coalition of druids and harpers thought that they'd killed Ketheric.
Darkest hour, a concord made, twixt harp and wild against the shade. You surmise that the druids allied with the harpers, a formidable force. A victory of the celestial Selûne over her dark sister, Shar. You glower at the fresco. Moonrise, a disgusting tribute to Selûne's past glories.
They took credit for his downfall. That infernal powers intervened remained unknown. For unknown reasons, Kethric's death also released Shar's shadow curse upon the land. But his death was only temporary. When he and his advisor had imprisoned Aelin, then they had ensured Kethric's immortality. Although Kethric eventually rose again, he would not continue onward as he had before his death. He chose to turn away from Shar and to convert to Myrkul, the god of death. Somehow, his siphoned immortality evolved into invulnerability during this process. He arose far stronger than he had been.
Alongside the local druids, we made it our business to see him deposed, dead and buried. But he's returned. Not only does General Ketheric Thorm live again, it seems he is no longer mortal. He has become, in fact, invincible. We met him on the road here, commanding an army of the Absolute, intent on destroying Baldur's Gate. I put an arrow through his eye myself, only to watch him pluck it out like a splinter. He healed right in front of me and chased us into the shadows.
Meanwhile, Aelin remained locked away in Shar's domain, but Kethric's link to her siphoned power remained unbroken. Though, since there was no guarantee that his link would stay unbroken, he would send someone to relocate Aelin. Shar would try to prevent this, of course. She had her own plans for Aelin.
Take my spear, step forward, and strike down the Selûnite.
As you command, Nightsinger.
Now go. Warm my blade with moon-crazed blood. And be wary of your companion. She pries in your thoughts.
That wasn't for you to hear.
Additionally, Shar's shadow curse remained the same. For unknown reasons, Shar's curse could only dissipate with Kethric's permanent death.
But there is one anchor, still holding the shadows in place. The soul that brought it into being. For the land to heal. Ketheric Thorm must die.
Even though he was no longer her follower, he remained tied to her curse. It's worth pausing here to note that Ketheric eventually turning from Shar makes sense in context, and it does for two reasons. Otherwise, his religious change might seem random instead of written well. For one, there's how Shar's memory erasure works. Partial memory restoration is possible, though full restoration is improbable, if not impossible. Shadowheart's story provides good, clear examples of this. Shadowheart had only brief recollections of her life, but she was taken as a child, and then heavily brainwashed. Since Ketheric was taken as an old elf, it's reasonable that he'd remember more, and that his love for his daughter would be a part of his recollection. The second reason why was the most powerful one: Myrkul's direct promises to him.
My Lord Myrkul gave me the one thing I desired, the one thing no other god could grant me. My daughter's life returned, her heart beating once more. For that, he asked that I serve as his chosen. Join Orin and Gortash to grow the cult of the Absolute, and then take control of it. He's never had a more devoted follower. I have fought great wars before, in the service of other gods and other powers, but for Myrkul I would condemn all of Faerun to death.
And Isabel's soul was taken out of the darkness she'd been lost in.
And this is where I still need answers. I died. I'm not sure how or why, but all was black. Next I knew, I was being jolted awake. I smelled musty air, I saw shadows. And then my father's face. So changed. So hideously warped. He told me we'd be together now. Said Aelin was dead. I couldn't speak. Could only run. I found Last Light within the shadows. Made a shelter there. Prayed my father wouldn't find me. By the time Jaheira came, I'd pieced together just enough to know I'd been dead 100 years. That my father was the source of the horrors that plagued my home. He's gone now. But I suppose the man I knew died when I died. The man he became, that wasn't the father I knew. The one I loved so very much.
However, despite her highly questionable plan to hide from him by Shooting up constant sky beams into the darkness, he didn't pursue her until later. No matter how events play out, Act 2's conclusion inevitably ends in the permanent death of Ketheric.
Impossible. Death cannot take me. I am its master. My lord, hear me. Nothing. I am forsaken. You have no idea what you've done. Isabel.
She will abuse his corpse.
My sword. My fealty. Do what you must. Then we fly this foul place.
If Isabel remains alive, then she and Aelin will meet up.
Isabel! My love! You were dead. I saw your body.
I'm here. And so are you. And my father, he can't hurt us any longer.
I dreamt every night that you'd come back to me. That somehow it was all a nightmare Dawn would undo.
I had no dreams at all. Nothing but darkness. And when I woke, my father said you were dead.
His soul was poisoned by the god of death. His sick devotion ruined him. But for all his sins, he brought you back to me. Are you all right?
I will be. And you?
In this moment, I want for nothing.
There you are. This is Aelin. Aelin, this is...
Then Aelin will brag about abusing her father's corpse.
But we have met. This is the soldier that freed me most valiantly from the Shadowfell. They watched my boot crush the very brain of villainy.
Isabel, in turn, will be very glad that her father's dead.
May he rest in peace at last, now that he's dead. I have more to thank you for than I knew. And we have much to discuss. Perhaps we could join you in your camp later? We look forward to it.
You there, Sharon. By the fires of your camp's hearth, we will discuss all we must.
I'll be ready. Whatever you have to say had better be worth your life.
Now, you will leave us. We must take succor in one another's bodies and words.
Aelin! We'll see you later.
She will not react to Aelin's corpse abuse of her father, not even want to bury her father, and will only feel concerned for Aelin's well-being.
Look after my angel, of course. She's been through more than I can bear to think about. 100 years in the Shadowfell. 100 years being murdered by Sharans over and over. It fills me with a rage I can hardly contain. She's a formidable woman, my Aelin. But no one could escape such horrors unscathed. She's in my hands now, and I intend to help her through whatever's to come. We'll both of us stand by you when the time comes to put down the horror that threatens this city. We are your allies, for life.
And that brings me to the next part of the video, my thoughts. I felt that this was a disappointing, rushed conclusion to an otherwise intriguing subplot, set of characters, and romance. It was fun to unravel the characters' histories, but the tale felt weak at points, and then it wrapped up in an unsatisfying way. I think that that's a shame because if this subplot were better polished and had only a few more lines, then I think its greater form could have been incredible. Despite the subplot's problems, I am aware that this was just one side story out of many, and I do think it had great creative depth for a subplot in a video game. That's why I still do like it, and it's one of my favorite subplots in the game. It has many good points and many interesting details. Side stories often don't get a ton of thought put into them in video games, and that's why I'm glad that this subplot did. I'm pleased about its cool details, and it even reminded me of classics, such as The Tale of Job, but with a fantasy twist. A seemingly good man loses everything when caught between his deity and an assailing supernatural evil. Was he really a good man, or only good because he was happy? Stuff like that isn't the norm to find in a fantasy video game subplot for a villain's backstory. It's well thought out, just flawed. So I want to be clear that my criticisms aren't trying to knock the game at all. My goal has been to convey that this subplot's intriguing ideas are what drew me into the tale. I enjoyed the details that it had, yet also felt let down by it, because I think that it had great potential that just wasn't fulfilled and could have easily been, but it was rushed instead.